Candid Sports.
Welcome to Candid Sports Week 13 College Football Recap. Week 13 of the college football season, otherwise known as Rivalry Week, or Semifinals Part 1 week for some teams. With a win, they could advance to the semifinals, or Part 2, the conference title games, and still have a shot at the playoffs. Alabama-Auburn. When rivals play, throw the records out the window. Not so much. Auburn was the last team to defeat number 1 Alabama. That was in 2017. The Tide become the 5th team this year to beat Auburn, 52-21. The Tigers can take pride in the fact the game was tied 7-7 after one quarter and only trailed 17-14 at halftime. The Tide likely have reserved a spot in the playoff, as they will face Georgia next Saturday in the SEC title game. Even a loss to number 4 Georgia, a one-loss Alabama team, gets in. The Roll Tide are the first Candid Sports playoff lock. Then there are actual rivals, like the teams that are somewhat evenly matched, and they go back and forth. Clemson, South Carolina are strictly geographical rivals at this point. The Gamecocks did take a 7-0 lead in Saturday's game, and hung in for most of the first half, before number 2 Clemson pulled away for the 56-35 win. Clemson will remain in the top 4, and will face Pitt in the ACC title game, and a win-get-in game next week. A Clemson loss to Pitt opens the door for Oklahoma, Ohio State, and yes, maybe even UCF. Then there are traditional rivals, like Notre Dame USC, which actually turned into a good game Saturday night, with the Irish coming back from a 10-0 deficit to beat the Trojans 24-17. Next week Notre Dame will enjoy not being in a conference, and not playing in a conference title game, where a loss could cost them a trip to the playoff. Notre Dame is in. Finally, a top 10 matchup for Week 13. Urban Meyer entered the game 6-0 versus Michigan. On Saturday, number 4 Michigan finally realized why they hired Jim Harbaugh and paid him all that money, to finish second in the Big Ten East. Ohio State beats Michigan, again, 62-39. Defense struggling to stop people, just scores 62 points. The Wolverines' playoff run ends. Ohio State gets to the Big Ten title game next Saturday to take on Northwestern, and keeps its playoff hopes alive. And for the next week, will have its entire season compared to Oklahoma to see who gets in. Of course, a rival wants to derail the other team's playoff and title chances. When this is the case, a lot, might be a sign the programs are heading in different directions. Ask Georgia Tech, who optioned out of a competitive game, losing to Georgia 45-21. Georgia is set up with a rematch from last year's national title game in the SEC title game, where a win gets them in, and a loss, they're out. A 2-loss Georgia team won't get into the playoff. Almost a top 10 matchup, and number 6 Oklahoma versus number 13 West Virginia, who tried their hand at a repeat of last Monday night's Chiefs-Rams game, with Oklahoma leading 35-28 at halftime and ending in a 59-56 win for Oklahoma, who will find themselves now in what could be a beauty contest with Ohio State for a playoff spot. The Sooners get another shot at Texas in the Big 12 title game, basically another addition for the playoff committee to review. LSU Texas A&M, 7 overtimes, tying an NCAA record. The 74 points given up by LSU, the most ever by a ranked team. The 146 combined points, an FBS record. The Aggies prevailing 74-72, officially ending LSU's playoffs hopes, which were already unofficially ended last week. The LSU loss does give UCF hope to move into the top 7. Number 16 Washington ends rivals number 8 Washington State's chances at a Pac-12 title and a possible playoff hope with a 28-15 win on Saturday night. The win sends the Huskies to the Pac-12 title game against Utah, and the first Pac-12 game this year that doesn't start at 10:30 p.m. The I-4 war suffers a casualty. Mackenzie Milton's knee. No, we aren't going to show the injury. Milton suffers a gruesome injury early in the second quarter with the Knights leading 7-0. Sophomore running back Greg McCray runs wild for 181 yards and 3 touchdowns as the Knights win their 24th straight game, beating South Florida 31-17. The Knights get a rematch with Memphis in the American Conference title game. The Knights should enter the game ranked 7th, hovering outside the top 4, hoping enough chaos happens to give them a playoff chance. Thank you for watching Candid Sports Week 13 College Football Recap. Check us out on Facebook at Candid Sports. And be sure to check out the Candid Sports YouTube channel for lots of other great football content. And please subscribe.